I'm again. Happy Friday. Hope everyone is doing well and has a great weekend ahead. We are in countdown mode until Monday now, when Kate Messner, author, will be visiting us for a virtual author visit. Earlier in the week, we read one of her picture books, Over and Under the Snow, and today I figured I would do something that she's created that's a little bit more geared toward the second, third, and fourth grade. So this is a book called Ranger in Time, Race to the South Pole. Kate has done the Ranger in Time series for several years, and it's a historical fiction series, which means she creates fiction stories that are connected to events in history. So here is Ranger in Time, Race to the South Pole. November 29th, 1910. Jack Nin packed the wooden crate with potatoes and cabbages. He loaded it into a cart and hitched up his horse, Wetsu. Then they started up the path along the New Zealand coast. It's a short journey to Port Chalmers. There we will sell our goods to the polar explorers, Jack said. They will leave for the South Pole with Nin family vegetables in the ship's hold. Wetsu gave a whinny. Jack leaned forward and stroked the star-shaped patch between the horse's eyes. The name Wetsu meant star in Maori, the language of Jack's mother. But Jack and his brothers rarely spoke that language aloud. They didn't speak Chinese outside of the house either. Jack's father had insisted on English. Being half Maori and half Chinese already brought enough trouble. Jack's father had died a year ago. Now his mother struggled to run the family's market garden with her 4 boys. They sold their potatoes, cabbages, tomatoes, and onions to the Chinese greengrocers in Dunedin. But the Nins were struggling. Some people in New Zealand said that Chinese men, like Jack's father, had stolen their jobs. They urged their neighbors not to do business with Chinese market gardeners. Jack hoped the explorers would buy the vegetables he brought. Every little bit helped. When Jack arrived at the harbor, a big ship was tied to the docks. Dogs yapped and howled. Men loaded sacks of coal and tugged ponies into stalls on the deck. "Excuse me," Jack called to a man carrying a sack over his shoulder. "Are you from the ship?" "I am," the man said. He had brown hair and a stubble of beard. "Might you purchase goods for your journey? My family has the finest vegetables you'll find in Dunedin." Jack pulled a folded up piece of paper from his pocket. He'd made a sign for the Nin market garden with drawings to show all of the vegetables. Sketching felt like magic to Jack. He loved filling blank paper with objects that looked real enough to touch. "Perhaps some vegetables or cabbages?" Jack said. The man laughed. "We're headed to Antarctica, my friend. It's a 5-week voyage to the continent, and who knows how many more before we reach the South Pole. Fresh vegetables won't keep. We need our space for biscuits and pemmican, dried beef and fat that'll last far longer than your cabbages." "Of course," Jack said. How foolish he was to not realize that. "But," the man went on, his eyes had a lively sparkle as he shifted the sack to his other shoulder, "we may be interested in some of your goods for a feast before we depart. Wait here." The man carried his load to the ship and returned with some money. Jack unloaded his crate from the horse cart and accepted the coins. "Thank you," he said. He knew he should start for home. There was work to be done, but he couldn't stop staring at the tall masted ship. It buzzed with activity and adventure. "You think you'll reach the pole?" "I'm sure of it," the man grinned. "You'll see my name in the newspaper when we return. Apsley Cherry Gerard, right along with the famous Captain Scott." Jack imagined what it would be like to travel to a place no one had ever seen. It made him think of his grandfather, who'd come to New Zealand to work in the Otago gold mines as a young man so he could send money to his family in China. Jack wished he could help his mother that way, but the mines had been cleared of their gold long ago. Jack looked at the big ship and wondered if there might be another way to help. "Do you need more workers?" he asked. The man shook his head. "Thousands came forward when Captain Scott put out his call for workers. I was lucky to be chosen myself." The man looked back at the ship. "When we depart, we'll be a crew of 65 men, along with 33 dogs and 19 ponies to pull the sleds." "I see." Thank you, then. Jack turned back to his horse. He couldn't stop thinking about his grandfather's courage, setting off for a new land to help his family. And he couldn't stop thinking about his own Wanao. Wanao is family in Maori, but it was more than Jack's mother and brothers. It was his extended family and the spirits of his ancestors. Jack had a responsibility to all of them. What if he snuck onto the ship, and hid under it until it was far from port? He could show Captain Scott and the others what a strong worker he was. Surely they would accept him as a cabin boy. Then he could earn money for his family. And so that's just the beginning of Kate Messner's book. You see the description she writes and how she sets the stage for what is to come. We're in for a very special day Monday, so I hope you come with good questions to ask our author who's visiting, and enjoy the weekend again. Take care.